Taoiseach, while today is dominated in the media with the elections in the US and President-elect Trump, both in the print media, television and radio, the issue I want to bring to your attention today is of a domestic nature, and it hasn't gone away. It's to do with the issue of housing. Taoiseach, a couple of weeks ago, 2 teachers approached me from our constituency. They were concerned about the welfare of 2 of their students, 2 brothers. I met with the teachers and I subsequently met with the family. And without going into the detail and identifying who they are, simply to say that the family are living in a hotel in Dublin City, parents and 6 children, and they're commuting on a daily basis to Clondalkin to attend school. Now, their plight, as you know, living in a hotel isn't a good one, where there's no cooking facilities, no laundry facilities, and it has endured. And the sad thing about it, Taoiseach, is it has endured since we got elected to this House. They have been in the same hotel since February 2016. Now, I'm aware that members of this House on all parties are concerned about the housing crisis, and a housing committee was established in advance of formation of government, and subsequently the government produced its report on the housing issue, which is Rebuilding Ireland. That report was launched 4 months ago and was quite specific in a range of actions that were attached to it. Many people in this House, while having different views on the report, fully supported and endorsed the report and were concerned that the actions would be implemented and delivered as quickly as possible. And the concern I have, Taoiseach, is that we have a lot of rhetoric and we have launched and relaunched, and Minister Coveney is launching another pillar of the report today. But it's the implementation of the report that is of particular concern to me. And since the report, in the 4 months since the report was published, it is worth noting that house rental prices in Dublin in particular, but nationally, as published this week by Daft, have increased and increased significantly, and those who are in homeless and homeless accommodation continue to rise, as indicated by the figures that were published. There are over in the region of 2,500 children in emergency accommodation. So, Minister, very specifically, in relation to your action plan on housing, Rebuilding Ireland, could I ask you in relation to the very first 2 actions, which I believe would have an impact for the family that I described? Action 1.1 is to provide 1,500 new rapid build housing programme over a couple of years. But very specifically, it indicates that 200 units of rapid build accommodation would be provided in Q4 of 2016. Could you update this House on the progress in delivering those 200 units in Q4? And the second action, Action 1.2, we will transition homeless households and individuals from emergency accommodation through the Dublin Region HAP Homeless pilot. And the target there was to deliver 550 tenancies in Q4. We're into Q4. The family that I represent and in our constituency could be the beneficiaries if these actions are administered and implemented in a timely manner.
Thank you,
Can you update the House on those 2 specific actions?
Taoiseach.
Thank you, Deputy. Well, clearly every member in this House is very conscious of the huge impact that the lack of supply of housing has on individual families, such as the way that you have described here this morning, Deputy Curran. And that's why this is a priority focus for the Government and indeed for this House, and that's why a very comprehensive plan has been put forward. Clearly, the lack of supply of homes is central to wider problems in the housing sector, as you describe it. Lack of supply is driving up prices, it is increasing rents, and which in turn influences homelessness. And every action is being taken, as you know, to ensure that families are not in the situation which you describe. None of us here wants to see one extra family going in to accommodation in the hotel as part of the solution to homelessness. Moving into a hotel is not part of the solution to homelessness, and we don't want it to be a part. And that's why the announcements have been made and the action has been taken. And indeed, you played a role in it yourself in ensuring that there was preliminary work done by the committee that examined this. And we do recognise those very significant challenges. Today, the Minister has made further announcement in relation to what is the important point that we have to deal with, is the fast-track delivery arrangements for the 30,000 new homes in major urban centres in Dublin, Cork and other urban locations around the country. And every action under Pillar 3 is designed to kickstart badly needed additional supply. And a key element, as you know, is the identification of the major urban housing development sites with the potential to deliver up to that number, to 30,000 additional homes in locations on existing zoned lands, in fact some of them close to our own constituency, Deputy, where there is key demand, so that we can ensure that people do have housing. The Minister has spoken about the number of families who have already moved out of homelessness. It's over 1,000 this year. I gave the figures, I think, this day last week here. And clearly, houses are under construction. Fast-track housing is under construction at present, over 300 by local authorities at varying stages of construction, which will be made available to families as soon as possible. The budget to deal and to support those organisations working with homelessness has been increased in order to help them make sure that every unit they have is available to families, and local authorities throughout the country are making sure that vacant properties are returned into use in a much more accelerated way than previously. And we all know that was a problem, but I think we can see in so many areas that that is being done. So every effort in relation to the various initiatives you've outlined, it has been made by government. It is unrelenting focus for Minister Simon Coveney to ensure that every single unit that can become available will become available as quickly as possible, and every support has been given to local authorities to make sure that that happens.
Well, Taoiseach, you answered a number of questions I didn't ask, but to pick up on the point you make, I think it's important that local authorities are given the additional staff to fast-track and deliver the housing programmes that they're expected to do. You referred to vacant properties. Most local authorities now are improving their record in turning them around. However, the government failed in the budget to deal with vacant properties that are in the private sector. You committed €6 million to deliver 150 properties. There are over 40,000 vacant properties in the Greater Dublin area. There isn't enough urgency and emphasis on fast delivery for those families who are in homeless accommodation at the moment. And specifically, Minister, I did not ask about Pillar 3. I outlined the case of a family who are in homeless accommodation for an extended period. I indicated to you the first two actions of Pillar 1. If they were being implemented effectively, the people that I'm representing and referring to would have a far greater chance. And by that, I'm specifically asking you, the very first action was that 200 rapid build houses would be delivered in Q4 of 2016. In terms of that commitment and specific commitment, where are we? And the second commitment was in relation to the homeless HAP, that 550 tenancies would be created in Q4 of 2016. Those two initiatives, those two very specific initiatives, would address the plight of the family I'm asking. So not Pillar 3, not the long term, but the immediate issues to deal with those people who are currently in long-term homeless accommodation.
I, no more than you, do not want to see any family spending an extra day in homeless accommodation such as you describe. And that's why we all care about every individual family that finds themselves in this situation. And that's why every effort is being put at the disposal of local authorities to move families, such as the family that you have described here this morning, into suitable accommodation. And let's recognise the fact that well over 1,000 families have already moved out of such accommodation. Of course, other families may move in, such as you describe, but clearly anyone who is there for the time period that you describe, I don't know what the particular factors are that are inhibiting or preventing that family from being offered a home, but many other families in similar situations have moved on from the kind of accommodation that you describe. And perhaps you would like to give me the details in relation to that particular family, and I'll bring it to the attention of Minister Coveney and see precisely what precisely has happened in relation to that particular case. The Minister has put on the record here the details of the progress to date. And as I said, in relation to housing that is currently, fast-track housing that is currently being built, there are 300 approximately underway in the Dublin area, according to what he said here.